camera.
Alright,
Here we go.
Alright, we're good.
Got the lights on.
Hello everyone, this is Box Cutter Reviews. I'm Aaron.
I'm Jerry.
Yeah, and we just got out of seeing, Man of Steel. Ooh. One of the most anticipated movies of the year. I'd argue that Iron Man 3, Star Trek Into Darkness. What a rough year we've had.
Yeah, it's a big summer film.
Yeah, the big summer. We've had a lot of disappointments this year, but honestly, I feel like the big summer films have been more impressive than the indie stuff, which was kind of the opposite of the
little bit, and it's almost like the year 2013 is kind of like
Mud.
Right.
Mud was so good.
Mud was excellent.
Mud was really
This
great.
kind of feels like the year of sci-fi films.
This is the year for sci-fi.
'Cause you had Star Trek.
Which leads me into kind of the big problem I've been hearing with people reviewing this movie. Well, let's first get into this. I thought it was really great. I'm biased though. We've been discussing this for the past 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I said this to Adam, the modern film critic. I told this to him. I said, I'm not the person to review this because it's kind of like a big nerd reviewing The Hobbit or The Lord of the Rings. It's like, I'm too biased, and people are going to be like, you're saying it's so good because you're a comic.
It's like the Cookie Monster reviewing a box of Oreos.
But if it really sucked, I would have told you that it really sucked.
Right.
And I'm trying to be honest when I say I really, really was on board for this movie. It just really felt like the Superman movie I wanted to see. And I'm not going to give away anything Adam said about it, but the arguments I've been hearing about it from people online are, some people say it feels too much like an alien movie, and I would like to refute that right now by saying that I feel like that was kind of the point of this movie. This movie was made by people who really love Superman, but wanted to tell a story that was more centered around him feeling like he didn't belong on Earth, which I think is something that the original Christopher Reeves movies really lacked. I thought this dealt with that really well. The big issue I have with this movie is the length.
It was a little lengthy.
Zach, it didn't have to be 2 hours and 47 minutes. I probably could have cut certain things, although it's kind of like The Hobbit. A nerd reviewing The Hobbit would say, yes, The Hobbit did run long too.
Right.
But you don't want to because you're enjoying these things.
Yeah.
Like you get to see
You don't want it to ever end.
You get to see these little things nods towards LexCorp. You get to see, honestly, I think this is the most, Russell Crowe, man, I'm not a big fan of Russell Crowe, but I thought he did exceptionally well here. This was the role I've seen him try more on.
Yeah.
I don't like Gladiator like everyone else does, but that's a different movie. When we're talking about in terms of acting, I thought, again, this was made by people who really cared about the source material. And I'm talking way over you.
No, it's cool.
Give your thoughts a bit before I go any farther. I'm going to talk your head off.
Just one thing that's been on my mind is I like how subtle Superman's strength was kept throughout, like, at least the first half of the film. You would see these kind of implications that Superman was obviously superhuman. He was obviously very strong, but the film kind of kept that as an undertone. Like, I really like that.
I like that they reined themselves in the opening. That's another thing I felt like
the flashback where he's being teased by those kids, and there's this one bully that's kind of antagonizing him, and he's saying,
"By the way,
come on, fight me, Clark." Yeah.
This isn't much of a spoiler.
I wouldn't call
it's just a flashback of kids picking on him because you know he's going to be.
He says, "Fight me, Clark," and Clark doesn't fight him. But like obviously, when the scene comes to a close, you can see that there's this part of a fence that Clark is gripping onto, and
it's like a big metal post.
Yeah, and the piece of the fence has been all like bashed in by like his arm because his hand's been squeezing it from keeping his anger in. He wants to hit this kid, but he can't because he's Clark Kent, you know.
I feel guilty about this one because I know everyone's resting on their 3.5s out of 5. I know everyone's saying that, but I feel like watching this, I was like, this is the movie I dreamed of as a kid. You know, because when you're a kid, you watch the 70s movies, you're like, this isn't really impressive because you've seen, you know that they've aged, but they're still good movies. Minus the end of the first Superman, which really bothers me. Richard, what were you thinking? But all due respect, love Richard Donner. But, you know, this was more of what I wanted to see out of a Superman movie. I really felt like I really got a sense out of what Superman could really do after this movie.
Right. The scenes with Krypton in the beginning, really cool way to introduce it.
Visually, you know, for all I praised Iron Man 3, 4, for all I praised Oblivion, and Oblivion was a really nice looking movie.
Yeah, Oblivion was pretty.
Yeah, Oblivion was a very pretty movie. For all I gave those much movies credit for visually, this movie really takes it, I think, as far as the way it looks, the way it's shot. Zack Snyder, love the guy or hate him, whether you hate Sucker Punch or not. That movie was balls. But, this was such a huge improvement for the guy, and I was really pleased. You can tell it's written by Chris Nolan and David Goyer. It's very much their creation. They wanted to take.
That's why I didn't completely mind comparing it to The Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah, I don't think that
subtle ways.
It's not.
You could see like with the type of filmmaking, you know.
A lot of people's biggest concerns.
Very linear path.
Yes, a lot of people's biggest concerns about this movie was that it was going to be just like The Dark Knight in terms of like darker and grittier.
Right.
And
it didn't have a very dark undertone, really.
It didn't, but it took the source material very seriously.
Yeah.
And I see where Chris Nolan and Zack Snyder, you know, as a comic book geek, as a guy who reads, you know, loves to read these classic stories, those guys really do care. And I do appreciate that they put such hard work into making these movies that are fan serviceable, but at the same time, people who aren't fans of the stories can go into them and watch them. But I see how the latter in this movie was a bit neglected. I was watching this movie, I'm like, I get what's going on here, but I could see how some people would be completely lost. Yeah. And that's where people are complaining that this movie is a bit too science fiction-y, and I'm going to try to keep this as spoiler-free as possible. I mean, basically what's going on is you get Superman's origins, you get to see Clark's, you start at Krypton and you end up whenever he's about 20...
In his 20s.
Early 20s. He's barely out of 20. And and I'm surprised that they wait up to a certain point to show him at the Daily Planet.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that. They wait up
that too.
They really wanted to take their time and show his background. But it never came off as boring or pretentious. I always felt like everything had a real, it felt very naturally flowing. That's a big complaint people have been saying. I thought it flowed pretty naturally. Minus a few parts. I do see where people are coming from on that.
There was a part that I kind of noticed in the film towards the beginning of it where they do have more of the flashbacks while he's growing up. It's not necessarily the flashbacks themselves, but the way the flashbacks were ordered. Like you would see a flashback of Clark going from his adulthood back to his childhood, but then you would see his childhood leaping back to his adulthood, then back to him being like a teenager or something. And then it would just jump around a lot. It didn't feel like it had a nice flow to it at all.
See, yeah, that is where I'm saying it does.
Some of the flashbacks were very
abrupt.
Yeah, exactly.
You didn't feel like that's another issue I have is the flashbacks felt like they were a bit. It flowed. I feel like I'm kind of turning on this because I did enjoy the flashbacks as good as they looked because I did like this. I was like, I'm seeing, why, you get to see. I didn't feel like they hammered it in too much, but they are a bit abrupt. I thought they were handled subtly, but they were too abrupt.
Right.
That's the problem. That's where I'm coming from. I thought that the scenes were really well captured, and they really caught this, this boy who's trying to learn who he is. But after a while, I was like, okay, I kind of get it. You don't have to do the flashbacks anymore.
Exactly.
I am being fair here. I am trying to be as fair as I possibly can. As a person who has loved this source material as much as I do, I really hate these arguments where people. It's a big kind of complaint between comic book readers is Superman is so boring. He's
easy to like.
He's easy to like. He's the Blue Boy Scout.
From an objective perspective,
he's this one big Deus Ex Machina, and I'd like to refute that right now and saying people say that he's too strong. You know what a Deus Ex Machina is, where it's like he's basically just because he's that great. It's basically just cause.
Right.
I've never really believed that. And I've always thought that argument was crap because they've done such a good job in the comics and. Most of them. I don't know about the previous movies.
I think the way they kind of combated that outlook was nice in this movie. They made him a little bit vulnerable.
They did make him vulnerable, and that's another.
If you go into this movie, definitely expect that. Don't expect to see this bulletproof guy like straight out of the gate.
He's not. He does. It takes time for him to learn, and I think that people are kind of complaining about that. It's kind of a similar argument to Rises. Only people are saying Rises, Batman wasn't.
I think it's what makes you appreciate the strength of Superman more, though. Like seeing him
show him
as a character.
They can't show him.
You can't just have him being this bulletproof
invincible.
baby.
Like that's the way they did Dredd. But Dredd did this thing where Dredd. He's like this bulletproof. Like no one can take this guy physically.
Exactly.
He's blown through. But then they bring in people who are on his level.
Right.
Possibly even more, because Zod is a war general.
Exactly.
Clark Kent
but
is just
Zod
a farm
fought
boy.
for that on his planet, you know?
Yeah.
It's not like he was born that way.
Yeah, he's not. See, and then you have this even playing field where Earth is like. See, I love the fact that they've. Another one of people's big issue with Superman is that he's too strong. But I'm like, on Earth is the only reason he's so strong. If he on Krypton, he's just like any other person.
Right.
He can't fly.
Right.
But Earth has given them this special power where he absorbs the radiation of Earth. How exactly did they describe it? I know this, but the way they described it in the movie was like he takes in the energy of the radiation and it makes
Right.
him stronger. Gravity doesn't affect him like it does
Exactly.
everyone else. Yeah,
And
that's
it's the way
big thing.
it's the way he's grown and adapted to Earth
I'm gushing
as
over
a
this
planet.
movie. But yeah, I'm seeing where the complaints are coming from because I'm like, it is too long. And there were parts.
There was just a little bit of, in my opinion, there was a little bit of cheesy dialogue in the end fight between Superman and Zod. Spoiler alert, by the way, but not exactly.
Well, you know that they're going to throw down.
anticipated, exactly,
You're anticipating a throwdown between
Right.
Superman and Zod. But yeah, I see where you're coming from. The dialogue at times had
Yeah.
problems. I'm like, you could have went with another line there.
Yeah.
And I was just like, yeah, I wish you didn't. But
It's
most
one of those lines that was like, if the Joker had said it in The Dark Knight or something, you would hear him laugh, like, afterwards, you know? It would be an obvious joke, you know?
And we're not going to reveal what it is. You're going
Right.
to have to watch the movie, because I try to keep this a spoiler,
Right.
like I do in my written reviews. But I don't know how much time we got left. I don't want to ramble on. In the future, I'm going to be doing more of these in right out of the movies like we usually, like I would like to do, because I enjoy, to kind of get this out of the way, I enjoy doing this kind of thing because it's fresh on your mind. You get to remember most of it.
I
After
think
you've
video
seen it.
reviews are more fun than written reviews.
Yeah, like it's really fun to watch. I really love watching my favorite critics go on about these movies.
Right.
And I don't know if I'll put jump cut edits in here or not. I may just let it run. I'm just used to a rambling style. I know a lot of critics like to cut theirs up, like Jeremy
You
Johns.
should do some fun jump cuts. That would be cool.
That'd be fun, yeah. But I mean, most of my favorite critics have these really, really long running things. And I don't want to have them really long running, but I don't know. I just there's a catharsis to see someone just like break down this this piece of film.
Right.
And honestly, yes, I'm seeing where the problems are coming from, and I did share many of the problems. I did think it was too long. The dialogue could have been better at times. I had no problem with the acting. Henry Cavill, this was a role I honestly thought he fit really well into. I thought he looked like Superman. He acted like Clark Kent. He did kind of give the best of both worlds. Maybe I felt he was underutilized in places, and gosh, I wanted to give this a 5 out of 5, but I really just can't. But Amy Adams, man, she really has the potential to bring
Amy
almost
Adams
anything
was a
she's
great
in.
actress in that
She
film.
really elevates what she's in.
Mm-hmm.
Watching her, she's really into the Lois Lane thing.
Definitely.
You can tell she's really just like Lois Lane, wee! Like,
Yeah.
she's really having fun
Facial
with her role.
expressions,
She really does. She acts
the
like.
way she carried herself as a woman.
And if we're being completely honest, Lois Lane, I've always had a problem with her in the comics because, yes, she's interesting, but she's kind of the damsel in distress.
Right.
I thought that Amy Adams played the damsel in distress, but she wasn't useless or standing off to the side. She always felt like she was there for a reason.
Right.
She's trying to get this scoop. Who is this guy?
Kind
She's
of a modern day
fascinating.
woman.
Yeah, like they've updated her very much,
Yeah.
and I thought she aged. She's aged well. Like
Right.
they've done well with her.
There's a certain bit of empowerment to her. It's
Yeah.
like, especially I like the one
Right.
scene where, again, spoiler alert, was it General Zod approaches the planet Earth. He says, that we need to take Superman back. We need to take Kal back. She steps forward when they're approached, and she says, "Take me with you." If she, they say that they need her, and she says,
She's
"I'll
not
go,"
she's not this cowering
Yeah.
woman sitting. She is proactive in this, and
Yeah.
I like that they added that into there because I was like,
Right.
that was I think that was actually on a lot of people's minds, is not if Henry Cavill could fill the tights well,
Right.
but if she could do it, because you have to, and this
And
is
speaking of the tights, by the way, I like the fact that they designed his costume as being more of like it's more of like body armor rather than tights. I thought that was
it's not
cool.
so much
aesthetically wise.
It's not so much armor as it is
Yeah.
kind of.
It's not really armor, but like
It looks-
it's not skin tight. You know what I mean?
When you look at it, always reminded me of these weird studded mats that you
Right.
see when you walk into a house. It
Yeah.
has like the studded, but I still thought it looked really cool.
I thought it was cool.
It would have been
like
really
this body
lame.
mesh type
Yes,
thing.
it did look like a body mesh, and I like that because you're trying something new.
Yeah.
If you'd made it look too much like Superman Returns,
Right.
you don't want that.
Right.
You want to really take it.
You don't
and
want a
make it
guy
your own.
flying around in pantyhose.
Yeah. See, people were complaining about the underwear thing, and I was like,
Yeah.
the way they're doing this movie and the way they're designing that, like, they're trying to
Right.
make it look like it's really from
He looks
Krypton.
manlier.
Why would the Kryptonians put underwear on?
Right.
You know, I was like, get over that.
Right.
I did. It does suck because you're so used to the classic, and
Right.
believe me, I understand that. But in this way, I was like, this is where some of the comic book geeks need to calm down a bit on this.
A little bit.
You know, people were complaining about the Iron Man 3 twist. I got that. That one I actually kind of understood.
Right.
I was like, yeah, you kind of did screw with this kid. But I thought they played that up well there. Here, I was like,
I thought they made it work.
there's no reason to complain about this.
Yeah.
But like, you just look at the guy. He's got the cleft chin. He's got the really, really godlike
Yeah, the
look to his
casting was
face.
very well done.
Yeah, casting.
They picked a good,
Mike-
square jaw type theme
Yes,
guy. you know.
Michael Shannon's really having a good time with his
Yeah.
villain role. Although I'm not saying anyone could have done it. I'm not saying that he was the only guy who's born to play this role.
Right.
But Michael Shannon's really having a good time
Right.
as Zod. I was like, this guy really picked up on how to be, and he is camping it up a bit at times. But I think that's kind of what. I'm not saying it didn't work. I'm not saying it. Maybe he wasn't camping it up so much as he was just like, he really looked like he was having a good time, but he never came off as. I thought he came off as pretty intimidating.
Yeah. I mean, I like the fact that he wasn't necessarily portrayed as being evil. He more so just had a purpose. He was born and bred to be this military
this
commander.
warmonger, and he's
Right.
and
he was born and raised to serve
Krypton,
and protect Krypton
no matter
at any,
what.
at any expense.
And I thought that made him it made him a bit more
Right.
two-dimensional.
And cast his morals aside for it, but like that doesn't necessarily like portray him as being an evil man.
Yes, they kind of portray him as this tragic-esque villain.
His sole motive is just protecting Krypton.
It doesn't matter who he tramples on to do it. He'll destroy Earthlings to do it.
Right.
There is an issue of the way. I'm not going to go into that right now. Go watch the movie. I guess I'm going to close thoughts on
Definitely
this.
worth watching.
It warrants. For me, it warrants a rewatch. I could see how if you're not really tied to the source material like I am, I could see how you're just like, I'll wait to get it on DVD again.
Well, I mean, to be honest, I've never seen a Superman film before seeing this tonight,
Yeah.
and I was impressed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess it just depends on your taste. You know, I feel like it warrants a rewatch. At least go see it. Yeah, I recommend the movie. I enjoyed it. I had a good time. Be ready to strap yourselves in. It is a long sit.
Yeah.
But if you're willing to sit
That's
through
what
it,
really hurt me on the review.
yeah, that's a big.
And the flashbacks and some of the dialogue, a little bit of the dialogue.
See, yeah, most of the dialogue. Yes, see, most of the dialogue was pretty solid. But I see where there were wink links where like you didn't have to say that.
Right.
You could have let that. But I mean, that was a problem I had with it. I'm kind of feeling.
The special effects were great.
Oh gosh, this was such a pretty movie to watch.
Yeah.
Like Zack Snyder really knows how to shoot.
Yeah.
And
whereas with After Earth, like a lot of the stuff in there, like it didn't look like the budget that they had for that film
After
really put forth the kind of special effects that they could have had
yeah,
for it.
that was a big issue.
Some of it
I had
looked
with
kind of
After
fake,
Earth.
you know?
After Earth, I was like, man, you really needed to. You
Yeah.
needed to try harder when it came to the
Exactly.
budget.
It's another one of those things where it's just kind of puzzling to me, like with the success that the Twilight series has had, for instance.
I know.
Like that in
Oh
general.
my
Like,
god.
the amount of books that series has sold, the amount of movies that series has sold. Why don't they have the sort of budget that they need
Breaking Dawn Part
to
2
make
has no
their
excuse.
wolf creatures look, a little bit more authentic?
You didn't see Breaking Dawn Part 2, did you?
Yeah, no, I didn't.
Sci-fi Channel original movies.
Yeah,
look
see,
better
and that's
than that
exactly
movie.
what I'm talking
That
about.
was
Like,
there's a scene where Bella Swan. We're gonna end this soon, I know, but there's a scene where Bella Swan jumps across a cliff.
Yeah.
And it's literally like someone was like, okay, we got to edit this to where she jumps over this cliff
Right.
into another one after she's gotten her vampire powers, and it's literally like someone took her in like Photoshop.
Yeah.
And just like cropped her over. It's kind of an exaggeration, but you think I'm kidding? It looks bad.
I don't understand it.
They're like
I don't understand it. They've
everywhere
had so
they
much
are.
financial success with that series.
Everywhere
like, you would
they-
think they'd be able to put more money into that department of their filmmaking.
Everywhere they are, it looks like, imagine this, but it looks like it's a matte painting.
Right.
Everything, nothing. Even when they're standing outside a house, it looks like I'm like, you guys have sold millions upon millions upon millions of dollars in this franchise. There's no reason why you shouldn't. You have no excuse for this.
Exactly.
And the movie sucks anyway.
But anyway, you won't be seeing any of that stuff with this new Superman.
No. There was this
the
was
special
made with,
effects are excellent here.
This was made with love, and I was really like, I was smiling a lot through it. I was just like, this is the kind of movie that Superman fans really kind of
special
deserve.
effects were definitely on par.
After being disappointed so many
Definitely
times.
on par for 2013 standards.
Oh yeah,
just as good as the special effects for Star Trek, in my opinion. Star Trek.
Oh yeah,
was
Star
up
Trek.
there.
Yeah, Star Trek. Yeah, that's a contender for best looking. Because man, that
Star
looked
Trek
good.
had some pretty shots.
Yeah.
The outer space shots for Superman, Man of Steel. I'm sorry, were excellent. And you could tell Superman was having a lot of fun, like when he was like first starting to fly and stuff. Like he had this big grin on his face, you know.
Your hair's kind of looking like Cavill's, sort of. It's kind of smushed over to this way. It's kind of weird. I was looking at the card and I was like, wait a minute.
That's kind of
cool. If your hair was a bit more pompadour on the side, you'd kind of look like it. But final thoughts. I enjoyed the crap out of it, but that's me. I know where it's kind of getting a bit. People like it underwhelmed.
Yeah.
Yes, to an extent it does underwhelm, but for me, I was just like, it was a really well made Superman movie.
I thought it was good.
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably give my definitive score on my written review, where I don't have much free time to go on a big tangent about it.
I'm gonna give my final score. I give it a 3.5.
See, that's a fair. I see that. But I mean, if you're really biased, you're kind of naturally inclined to give it a little bit of a higher because you're just like, dang it! I felt like it was really treated.
I feel like 3.5 is fair.
It is fair.
I felt like it was well made, and I felt like it's definitely worth going to see in the theaters.
I'm wrestling with my score.
Some of the little things brought it down.
Some of the little things did, but
and it's hard for me to ever give a movie a 5. So
it is. Mud really did deserve the 5, though.
Mud was excellent.
Mud was
if you haven't
excellent.
seen Mud this year, go see it.
The second it comes out, watch it illegally. Watch Mud. I felt like it was a superior.
You're hearing that from him, not me.
Oh yeah, Mud was a superior film. Yeah, and from you too.
Yeah.
Mud was a. Oh wait.
I'm at the illegal part.
Okay, yeah, okay. Maybe I'll take it back. Don't watch it illegally. But any chance you can, it doesn't matter how you do it. I'm not going to say you should watch it illegally, but anyway, watch it. That movie, it was superior to this.
Mud was excellent. Matthew McConaughey.
It was superior to Star Trek. Like, it was just a very great drama. Matthew McConaughey is giving his all in that movie.
Yeah.
But that's not the only reason, but that's definitely the highlight. But
yeah, Man of Steel, go see it.
Yeah, we've rambled pretty far afield on this one. So, yeah, guys, go check it out. And there will be more vlogs coming up. I'm seeing This Is the End Saturday, I believe. And I don't know if you'll be there. I'd like for you to be there.
Come by and check it out.
If you are, great, we'll do this again. If not, I'll probably just shoot a vlog at home, sitting on the couch or something. I don't know. I'll do something. But anyway.
Well, I like the car perspective. The car is cool.
Yeah, I know.
Makes people feel like they're here with us.
Yeah, I know. That's. I feel like it's more engaging.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe if I don't do it in the car, I'll just write a review.
Right.
But for me, I'm pretty sure this one's kind of sitting on a 4 for me.
4?
But that's just me though.
You should make that little pop up on the screen.
Yeah.
Ding.
I was able to
4.
I was able to let some of the little minor things go just for how entertained I was. The length of it really was.
Yeah, the length of the film kind of.
That was a big downer for it. That was like, this didn't need to be this.
I just feel like there's an obligation with.
But it didn't feel long to me though. It didn't feel as long to me though. The guys were saying that it did. It didn't feel long. Jared didn't. Jared was like, see, I felt The Dark Knight feels way longer than this, but it's Dark Knight. I could forgive that. It was such a great movie.
Yeah.
But
it was warranted.
We're rambling about other movies at this point. But go see Man of Steel, guys.
Definitely.
You have a good one. This is Jerry, and I'm Aaron.
Peace.
Have a good one. Please tell me.
That's pretty cool, man. You
please
gotta put
tell
it
me
on
you got